On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
Entrepreneurs who are having those rock stars and you're pulling them up the hill and you want it more than they do, stop, right?
Yeah.
Hold them accountable, call them on their mistakes and see what they do.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolf, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolf, back with you today, Gathering the Kings podcast. I've got a special queen here on the stage, Karmen Berentsen. How are you today, Miss Karmen?
I'm great. I'm impressed you said queen. It was fun. I listened to some of your podcasts after being asked to be on your show. And I was like, well, I think it's a queen instead of a king today.
Exactly. Well, I say this every single time we have a queen on the stage, that king is not masculine, it's mindset.
Love that.
For today, we will make sure that you're very queenly. Your story is going to absolutely back up the fact that you're a queen. So I can't wait to get to that. But at this level, tell us what kind of business that you're running. And I want to ask you some high level questions first.
I love it. I have a women's empowerment company. And that has multiple branches. And we have A-Line Boutique under it, that we have 4 locations. We have A-Line Stories, that includes my memoir that got published and hit #1 on Amazon, which was new release, which is awesome. And we have A-Line Adventures, which I take clients to Paris and to New York and to ice climbing and to hanging off of cliffs and fun things like that.
Wow. I mean, I can only assume that, I shopping or doing things in Paris and then ice mountain things are extremely different. But it sounds incredible.
They are, but they're also extremely similar in that they both have a sense of aliveness, right?
Yeah.
And I love I always say I'm like Wizard of Oz, pulling back the curtain, right? I love taking people and letting them experience Fashion Week and showrooms and kind of like, and also the humanness of it, like really the glitz and glamour gone. And I was just actually talking to someone yesterday about how like the supermodels of the world, like literally Gigi, Kendall, I mean, we're talking Carly. And that if you are backstage with them before a runway show in Paris and New York and Milan, they are all taking laxatives. They are all farting. It is not pretty. It is not what you think of the super women, right?
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
It's fantastic, but it literally is like, oh my gosh, I'm just like them, right? And this is empowerment. And the same thing to take women, off of a cliff and have them say hanging 300 feet, very safe, but on a Via Ferrata and stuff like that.
Sure.
It's you get out of your comfort zone and you realize what you're capable of.
That's
And you live. And the same thing with clothes. I can't tell you the number of women that have come in and are kind of like, I have this, and pull back that curtain and walk out. And they are just like, ready to work, and they are empowered and they feel beautiful and seen and all the above.
Well, I can't ever say that necessarily I felt beautiful and seen, but I know when I go get a nice button up that's tailored just for me,
right?
Being 6'5", long and skinny,
right? I
feel sharp. I come out and it fits me nice, and so I can only imagine what you're doing, just even with the clothing things. But it's funny that you say it's like that human element. We do the same thing. Gathering the King started as a mastermind group. And so we've got these moments in time where business owners get together. And of course, we get together over Zoom and we're talking business strategy and everybody feels like they have it all together. But then there's these human moments, where you go, oh, wow, he's just like me, or she's just like me. She's struggling with the same things that I am. And you're right. It's that human perspective of going, and it doesn't actually allow us to lower standard of, like you said, farting and all these other weird things that go behind. But it's like, no, they're just like me. I can now empower myself to be like them.
Yes, absolutely. That is so well said.
Well, I'm excited to dive in here. Before we do, you obviously are speaking at a level of just, you've been doing this for a minute. You're uber successful. You're like exploding with success and joy, and you're helping other people do it. Why are at this level do you like you're still pushing? You're on podcasts. You're doing the business thing. Why? What's the bigger picture for you?
Oh, I am. I am very much doing it. And I very much work a lot of hours every week. And I do it though, because I love what I do. And what I do is I help souls feel alive. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, and to wake up every day and to do what we're meant to do, right?
Yeah.
And to have that benefit is huge. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned with the gray hair is that I don't do everything. I do what I want to do. And listen, I mean, that's different than everyone says, there's things that only you can do and learn to delegate. And yes, that's very true, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But who says do what you want to do? Because there is this thing of I love always saying you should on yourself. Don't should on yourself, right? But we do it. We do it all the time. I should go to this dinner. I should do this. I should wear this. I should eat this, right? But the reality is there's so much weight and fatigue with that. But when you say, what do I want to do? Right. And then why do I want to do it? It's so much power. And the reality is to answer your question, I work really, really hard and I'm very invested right now because I am doing what I want to do. And what I want to do is daily help women, mainly women, but also men in different capacities, but really feel alive, seen, confident, powerful, just alive and show up. Show up. Like this is your human experience. Like do something with it. Show up.
Yeah, I love that because that can be defined in this case for women, for you, or for me as a business owner, helping other business owners, or it could be in whatever, as you said, human experience, right? Whatever that means for us.
Yes.
Show up, be all that you can be the best version of you can be, reach for the potential. I mean, we could probably split it like 100 different ways here, but be all that you're designed to be. Does it take, or has that taken a certain acknowledgement for you? For me in my journey, just real quick, I've had to acknowledge the things along the way of like, that's what I'm made for. And then you press into it. Or those are the things that I want to do as opposed to the things that I have to do, or that I'm the only one that's good at it or whatever.
Right.
Has that been a journey for you? How do you explain that maybe to other women? Give us some input there.
I think definitely the first thing that had to happen for me is I had to stop doing everything I thought would make me happy. Again, that's why I say shoulding on yourself. I
love it. I'm stealing it, by the way, just so you know.
Oh, good. Go for it. Absolutely. I love it. I should do this major in college. I should take this job. I should marry this man. Right. Yeah. I did a lot of those and I was really, really, really miserable for a lot of years. And it wasn't until I stopped and I was brave enough to ask, why am I doing all this? Like, what do I need? Right. And for me, that's where then my memoir came about of learning to fly. And that's why I published it, was to share, an extended podcast of the journey of me being able to, in a sense, reclaim myself. Right. Yeah. And be proud of it and own it versus diminish it. Be like, that's not very good. You should be this, Karmen, Right. And so much of it, I was in survival mode for a long time. My father left when I was 5 and my mom passed away when I was 17. And so I was on my own. And I remember like it was yesterday, when I was standing in the memorial hall looking at my mom's body in a casket. I remember standing there and thinking, if I start crying, I will wake up 50 years old, a drunk on a park bench, and I would have missed my life. Because I could not, it's almost like looking at that wave coming toward me of and sadness and despair. And I knew I wouldn't survive it. I wouldn't survive it if I felt it. And so I literally, it was like, I just zipped up my soul.
Locked it up.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to walk out of here and she's in heaven and I'm going to become a doctor and I'm going to make a shitload of money. Sorry. Can I say that on your show? And I'm going to need no one. I'm going to absolutely need no one. And that served me in that I didn't become crazy, like literally mentally lose it. I didn't turn to lots of drugs and everything else to numb all the pain. Right. I turned to ambition and success to numb the pain. Right. And busyness. But finally at 33, once I had sold my first company, and done well and been on a beach retired in Hawaii, I finally, instead of deciding to win the Ironman Hawaii or, whatever next, right. Distraction.
Right.
I literally was exhausted, and it came from exhaustion. It was like, you were so brave. I was like, I was exhausted. I was so exhausted. And I knew that also there was this gut knowing that if I kept going, I was going to end up like my mom with 2 brain tumors and so sick, and my body was going to revolt. And so I just sat down and I felt it. And what I thought was going to destroy me healed me. And just sitting in that pain and sitting in all the anger, and then all of a sudden, it's like you start healing. And I was like, oh my gosh, the world is so beautiful and it's not against me. And I don't have to fight everyone. I don't have to manipulate and now literally in my now 3rd business that I'm in, I manifest, I meditate, and there's a lot of magic in my life. It's really different. And it's so much more fun. So, but I could not, it's to your point, absolutely. It's a journey. It's a absolute journey. I was not blessed or, the fairy didn't sprinkle me with like, oh, well, you're going to live this perfect, enlightened life. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to sit in the pain and grow and then blossom.
I mean, you bring up such a great point, and thank you for sharing and just being vulnerable. I think that whether male or female listening right now, we all have these moments, these mom in the casket wave coming towards us moments, and sometimes we deal with them in the moment, sometimes we deal with them later. Knowing what you know now, and then we'll get into some more business stuff. So for the listener, hang tight here. I really think this is important. Do you think if you had dealt with it like you did at 33 on the beach in Hawaii at 17, do you think that would have changed the trajectory at all?
Yes and no. It's a great question. I'm a risk taker. I'm fearless. I'm an entrepreneur through and through. It's just how I'm wired. Right. And I think that's innate to my DNA. Sure. So would I have done what I've done with less regrets? Yes. A few less divorces. A few, so
you had some casualties along the way because you didn't deal with it.
Oh, yeah. I have had dead bodies. Not literally. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Yes. It would have been a lot less painful.
Sure.
But I don't think it's not like I think if I would have dealt with it in a healthy way, I would have missed out on success. No, I would have had just as much success. You do not have to be cool. You don't have to be the villain. That's what also business, to now come back to business, right? It used to be that CEO had to be the Steve Jobs, right? You're not anymore. And you don't have to be that person to have success. And you never did have to be that person.
Yeah, that's right. I was just talking about this actually with my team, the Gathering the Kings team, about a week or so ago. And what kept coming up was this phrase of, basically becoming successful in a different way, or, in essence, what you're describing, becoming successful, but not how you think you have to.
Right.
And I liken it even back to my sales career before I was a business owner, is I really took pride in being the best, the number one guy, but that no one had anything. They couldn't tell me that I cheated or that I stole an account or that I wasn't the one willing to give accounts back to people because I was just abundant, and
Yes.
there's this different way of operating, which you've alluded to, and just something very similar my team and I were just discussing about a week ago, which that you can be this, this uber successful individual, business owner, businesswoman, businessman,
Yes.
mom, pop,
Yes.
sibling, whatever title we want to give ourselves in
Yeah.
life, and all these different relationships and circles that we run in. But you can do it in this way that actually brings like wholeness.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. And you said something really key, is that it's an abundant mindset. And that's not woo-woo term. That is a hard,
that's real.
That's real. That is
your hand
real.
is open or it's closed.
It is very, and you either approach everything, and I approach life from a scarcity, right? The world is against me. I have to fight everyone. Nothing's good's going to happen unless I make it happen, even from a manipulating way, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Now I approach the world. The world is beautiful and abundant, and there is more opportunity than I can ever make good on, right?
Yeah.
And it's still just as much work, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It's it's a mindset. You're absolutely right. And it's very real. So I love that you brought that up. Yeah, that's huge for a business.
That's you're 100% right. I would agree with you on the mindset. And then you have to remind yourself, or at least I do. I have to remind myself sometimes that, hey, we don't want to operate in scarcity here. Because I think it's something that we have to kind of daily choose, or weekly choose at least.
We do. I agree.
All right. So tell me about, early on, you obviously sold a company at 33, you're uber successful. You've got multiple companies now. So take from whatever situation you'd like to, but I'd like to know, in one of these businesses, before it was doing $1 million in revenue, I want to know a good decision that you made that you can share, that was practical, that maybe the listener can write down, take a note of, and something that they can implement into their business as well.
Oh, well, the first decision is going for it. I mean, seriously, as simple as that, right? But I think the second decision is hire a personal, or if you want to call them executive assistant, hire an assistant. It is. So when I was first starting GB Synergy, my first company in the tech industry, someone said to me, your first hire needs to be a personal assistant. And I was like, I'm sorry. I have no revenue. I have no clients. And you're telling me to have an expense of a personal assistant.
Right.
And they said, well, very quickly, you will have something to run to the post office. You'll have a lease to look at. You'll have drafts. You'll have, you need a proofreader. You need this. You'll have life stuff. Right. And I did. And I swear it is one of my secrets to success, is that I am, and that first personal assistant, after a couple years grew into this role and get into this role. And when I sold the company, she was named CEO.
Wow.
And it makes sense when you think about it. You have someone who's joined at your hip, who's hearing everything, has complete visibility into almost everything. I mean, pretty much. Right. And so you literally are trying to clone yourself, right? In a way.
Yeah.
And so that person, when you're moving on, of course they can step in, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense.
100%.
And the really good ones are, they're ambitious and they're different than you, but guess what? As a company evolves, it needs a different leader.
Yeah.
So it's okay, for that person not to be your clone in personality, right? Because they're not an entrepreneur. Right. Also, you can talk about that. This is the CEO that's needed to launch a company. This is a CEO once it's in maintenance mode. I am a horrible CEO in maintenance mode. I make a mess of everything, right? Because I don't know how to do maintenance mode. I'm a creator. I like to create. And so that's why then A-Line Adventures came about. A-Line Stories came about, right? We're opening out in Salt Lake City. We're going out of state, right? I have to keep creating. And then I surround myself with people who are the maintenance, who are amazing managers and directors and executives in the maintenance mode.
Yeah, 100%. I think the serial entrepreneur-ish that you've described, not only do we get bored in maintenance mode, but it's like it doesn't fulfill the crazy in us. No. Like there's a certain level of crazy where it's like, yes, I want to go back to beating my head against the wall.
Oh, totally.
For a brand new thing, right?
Totally. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll take the beating of the head on the wall over, everything is going great. I actually, kind of oddly, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, and this is probably good for the listener to hear, even though they haven't hit $1 million in revenue yet, they have this same mentality. A lot of entrepreneurs do, where it's like, we look for problems. Sometimes we create problems.
Oh yeah.
Just to keep ourselves entertained.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. No. And I think that's where, if your goal isn't big enough, and as soon as you start meddling, you need to have a bigger goal, or you need to excuse yourself. And you need to get out. Yeah.
That's so good. Okay. So just right on that, before we leave this good decision topic, what you just said there, as far as like kind of acknowledging that moment of like when you begin to get a little restless, a little meddling going on, little creating of problems. What would you say for the person listening right now who, again, business isn't very big yet, and maybe they've got the meddling? What I heard you just say is the goal's not big enough.
Yeah.
Expand that just a little bit. I'm a business owner. I'm in the trades, or I'm in marketing, whatever it is. I'm doing $500,000-$600,000 a year. I'm starting to get a little antsy.
Yep.
Fill in the blank.
Well, I can think of a lot of entrepreneurs who were the best technician or the best skilled trade, right? Before when they're working for someone, and they said, I want to stop making everyone else money and I want to make my own money. Right. And so they do that. And, but that was their goal. Their goal was really just to work for themselves and feed their families. Right. And so if they're honest, they might have said, oh yeah, the company's this, but really their goal has already been met. If you're at 5 or 6, you know what I mean? You're under that million, but guess what? You're profitable, or you're, you have the revenue coming in, you're feeding your family. So your goal needs to grow. So now it's time to sit back and say, what do you actually want? And I call it moonshot goals. Like, it's literally shooting for the moon. Right.
Yeah.
And so what is that huge, audacious, hairy, big goal? Right. And is it, like for me years ago when I bought A-Line. It was an established boutique here in Denver. One store, 2,600 square feet in a strip mall, which now is called Lifestyle Center. I just learned that. So in a lifestyle center. So anyhow, we're all evolving.
Yeah, apparently so. I just learned something.
There you go. It's not called a strip mall anymore. It's called a lifestyle center.
Okay.
So anyhow, but it's, the owners were your quintessential boutique owners. They had an amazing eye. They loved to go to market. It was a hobby for them. It was a paid hobby. Right. And they were going to close it because it really wasn't profitable, and they had moved to Europe, and so I bought it, but I bought it really as a way to meet other cool women in Denver who wanted to show up and not just be like, here's my Celine bag. Cause it wasn't about a label. It was about, being casually chic, being put together, but not being fussy, and having style and showing up in the world. And so I thought, if I love this, someone else is going to love this. And so, and I'm going to meet other women, and I have, and that's what's been incredible. But so my goal was very small. Does that make sense? And they did 300,000. The first year we did 700,000. The next year we had 1.4 million. Right. And so when we hit that, I had to pause and I had to go, what is my next goal? Because I've done it. Right.
Yeah. You quadrupled.
I know and I could say I have now, I think we had maybe 1,000 customers and like 200. I mean, there's a lot of women I vacation with now that I met through my boutique, right? Just because we would have never met in life. And it's such a cool hub. And so I had to say, what's my next goal? And it was really interesting because I literally said it at a party, because I was standing at a party and someone said something like, oh, they're like, oh, you're at the point, maybe Nordstrom will buy you. And I was like, no, I'm going to buy Nordstrom. And they're like, they kind of joked. And then I was sitting there and they go, you're serious? And I was like, oh, I'm dead serious.
100%.
And this is when I was, 2,600 square feet, one little store in a suburb of Denver. Right. But I was like, that's my moonshot goal. I'm not going to get bought by Nordstrom. I'm going to buy Nordstrom or compete with them and take them out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 100%.
And that's an audacious, hairy, big goal. Right.
Yeah.
And now we're on our way,
Yeah.
So,
I love the transformation that you just took us through, because it's so true. It can go from feeding my family, purchasing a little boutique. Let me see what I can do with this. Let me just meet a couple of ladies to, obviously all the relationships that you've done, life with have actually created your other companies actually. And and so not only has that been an expansion of the original goal now into bigger goals, but what you just said is, obviously I laughed, not at you, but in like, wow, you buying Nordstrom. Wow. Like the audacity that you have to say that. But you're right. We have to have those moments. And even if we chuckle at ourselves.
Oh, totally. And this is the thing. I could not, if someone would, tell me the plan. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a business plan to do that. And this is where you don't have to tell everyone, right? But you have to have it yourself. And it has to be something actually that you want too. It's not, again, the should goal. It's not like the answer you're supposed to get, right? Because it could have also been, let's say I didn't want the business goal, right? But now that I was feeding my family, it could have been like, oh my gosh, now I want to co-create with a designer. Right. I want to start a charity for wealthy women who want to help people who are struggling and getting jobs and dressing and stuff like that. Does that make sense? It didn't, but you have to have a new goal because and you have to realize, wow, my first goal I achieved, and maybe I achieved it in 3 months. Maybe I achieved it faster than I ever thought possible. Well, then pause and figure out what is the next thing that gets you excited. Yeah. And then go for it.
If you don't have that next thing, what I have found is that it's either that or it's basically like accepting average. It seems a little harsh.
It is.
We've heard these things that you're growing or you're declining. And so even though it feeds my family, I've reached my goal, it's good. Anything that I've ever had my hand to, the second that I'm in coast mode or in maintenance mode, like we talked about, personally as creators, as these high driving entrepreneurs, it just doesn't work. I can't be in that realm. And so I guess the encouragement here for the listener before we move on is just that, first off, acknowledge that if you're like this, if you're like me and Karmen, don't meddle and create problems. But in all seriousness, sit down and be proactive about moving out that goal or creating some BHAG here where you've got this ginormous target around something that you don't probably even believe, but it's okay. It's okay. We need to have it. We need to have it written down, and we need to probably go after it. What would you add to that?
Oh, yeah. What I was just going to add was I think it took me a while to realize, though, that I hadn't, let me say it differently. For a little bit, when I started getting bored, right, I thought maybe I've lost my edge. Maybe I was a sprinter. I just had this one good drive. And now I'm a phony. I'm an imposter. I'm really not capable of anything more. And I'm not capable of running this business. And that was the aha that went, no, I'm not capable of maintaining a business. I was meant to create.
Yep. That's good.
Because I think I got stuck there for a while and I was really hard on myself. And I was kind of like, and I felt like I couldn't say to anyone, I'm kind of over it, right? Or I'm kind of bored. And I'm not saying you say that to, maybe your direct worker bees, right? Right there. People are like, well, if you're over it, I'm over it. But this 100%. Is what's interesting. Even if you don't say it, they feel it.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So, but there's nothing wrong with you. You just weren't created to maintain a business.
Yeah, that's right. So good.
Yes. Or run a business. You just gave permission to hundreds, if not thousands of entrepreneurs to go, yes, that's how I feel, because I those exact moments that you just described, I feel. And you're right. We feel like this imposter syndrome sometimes that pops in and maybe it's not who I'm designed to be, but you're 100% right. It just means that there's another level and you can still be in that business. You just need that next layer of entrepreneur or integrator or COO, however you want to label this individual or team that can play that maintenance role or growth role, but in a different trajectory. It's not the creator role. Yes.
Okay, let's flip the script. Karmen, tell me about a bad choice you made that was just, fist on the palm, palm on your forehead going,
I have made so many, it's not even funny. Right. I think everyone has, it's interesting because I think all of the bad decisions are all rooted in when I am reacting out of fear or control. And I love to pause and start there at first there, because it really is anytime that because it's a reaction and it's not strategic, it's not creative, and it's not kind. And I can't believe, if you would have known the 20-year-old, if you would have ever told her that the 48-year-old would have been using the word kind in a business podcast,
right,
I would have thrown up. Okay. I am an ambitious, tenacious, adventurous, fierce person, but I have learned the power of kindness. And so every time that I have not been kind, and I have been reacting out of control and fear, it has gone horribly wrong, to the point of, losing a phenomenal team member. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, truly, like, I can look back and say, this was the conversation where there was a fork in the road and I was never able to recover him or her. To even just personally, and, relationship with my, child, that I'm like, oh, that was bad. If there's any way to rewind that, so, I mean, I can lose lots. Like, I mean, for boutique owners, please, do never put one on the floor like Europe. I tried it. I thought it was brilliant. It doesn't work, because guess what? Americans are used to seeing what's available. And if they only see extra smalls on the floor, they assume you don't carry larges, which I pride myself in carrying larges and size 10s and 12s, right? From book, worst mistake was thinking that my story was brilliant enough that I could spend, less than a year, and I wrote this phenomenal story, and I found an editor, and I thought it'd be published, and it was published 12 years later once I learned writing, right? I had a phenomenal story. I was a horrible writer. There's a very big difference. Now, I could have had someone ghostwrite it, but I wanted to learn to write. I have made, not knowing what cash flow is. Okay. That was a really, really, really bad mistake.
Enlighten us on the cash flow. Give us the story. This is a good one.
Yes. I mean, I've made so many mistakes.
I obviously we can all relate to that. I appreciate your vulnerability around relationships, because I think if you're right, like the 20-year-old version of yourself may be a little, like confused with the word kind. But really what it is it's maturity of relationship. It's maturity of communication. It's not being so urgent and so deadline oriented, or, as you're saying, fierce about your targets, that you realize that there's other humans involved.
Yeah. You realize the sum is really greater than the parts, right? And if you want to be an independent consultant, fine, you can plow over everyone, right, except for the clients, and be successful, right? But if you want a team and you want a company, and organization just is Latin for organism, it's a living thing, right? If you want a living thing, you can't kill it in getting to the goal. And I used to plow over everyone and anything to get to. And then I was like, we won. And it's like, no,
nobody was there with you.
No one's there with me. Yeah. So it was, that's my most painful mistakes, right? The other ones are all transactional and growth and industry and stuff like that. But I mean, if I could have known that now, and that's another reason why, someone said Learning to Fly, my memoir, should be a required reading in all business schools. Because and I agree, because if I would have listened to someone and approached business differently, I'd again have a lot less regrets, and a lot more success, because the people I didn't honor and I didn't respect were the valuable people, right? The worker bees put up with me because they were getting enough from me. The equals of mine, when I didn't treat them like an equal, as a human equal, right?
Right, exactly.
They were gone. And that's a really big loss to a business.
Yeah. It's just really, really good perspective. I think that even, I hope that your book does become required reading. But great. Even if it does, I can see myself at 20. Probably you at 20 also. Maybe there's a 25-year-old or even,
Yeah.
someone listening right now that's hearing us talk about this. And
Right.
even if you and I had heard us talking about this in our
Right.
20s,
Right.
would we have listened? Would we
Well,
have had the perspective?
I don't know. I don't think I would have had the confidence. That's the
Yeah.
difference. I don't think I would have had the self-confidence not to have the need to prove myself, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
be so aggressive. But what I would have, everyone just told me, be kind, be this, but no one actually said, okay, wait a minute. If you want the rock stars, if you want yous, how do you want to be treated? Right. And would you put up with this? And if I think if someone would have said that to me, I would have been
Sure.
like,
That makes
oh,
sense. Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. Like, wait a minute,
Right.
I need to pause, before I just pounce.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the yous and the eyes of the world don't want to be under the thumb or
No.
controlled or manipulated or
No.
or any of that. Not that we're trying to do those things to the people who aren't like us.
Right.
But it's just a different profile. And so we're providing something different for those
Right.
profiles than we would be for someone that would be more like us. And you're right. That's the fastest way to drive a driver away.
Yep.
We need
Awesome.
drivers. We can't be the only one. The example that you gave there of racing all the way to the finish line and, hey, we made it, and then being by yourself. I think that we can all relate to that to a degree, whether it's been, some of the holidays with edible arrangements for me, we get done and I'm the only one at the end, like that is still standing, even though I was up for 4 days. Everybody else is dead. It's like, we made it, but was it worth it? You gotta be able to really take care of people along the way, I think is the number one thing here.
Yes.
I wanted to give you just a quick opportunity here before we transition to the speed round. Is there some sort of a discipline or a process that you have now when making decisions? We talked about you making decisions early, good and bad. What about now? This uber successful profile. How does this happen nowadays?
I don't make any decision in a silo. We're too big. And big, I mean, we only still like with A-Line 20 some employees, you know what I mean? But still we have 4 stores, we have 18,000 customers, but we're too big. I don't make a decision, right? And also we've grown to the point that like our CFO, I mean, she came from Janice, our CEO, I have great team members, right? And so I don't, people laugh at me all the time. Our CFO's husband, literally, we were out to dinner and I looked at her, I was like, can I do this? And he looked at me, he looked at my boyfriend, he goes, doesn't she own the company? And I was like, oh, I don't make a move without her because there's an honor and there's a respect.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It really is like I have that confidence. I don't need to prove I'm in charge or I own the company. Of course I own the company, right? That I don't have to prove that. So I really don't. I mean, there's times I don't make a decision without my assistant. I'm like, can I do this? I mean, I pause and ask her, because she's managing up to me and she's
totally.
like, wait, you're kind of packed here. And I'm like, oh, thank you. You know what I mean? Like I ask all the time. And I have a practice of encouraging my team to manage me, communicate, rumble with me. I love that from Brene Brown's Dare to Lead, rumble, that term of rumbling, bravely, confidently, respectfully, trust, rumbling. And we are a team member. So that's the biggest practice that I consciously and intentionally do on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think that you're right. And for the entrepreneur listening right now, who most likely they don't have that healthy rumble, they've probably got some rumblings, but it's probably more of a challenge of, a young person on their team that is unbridled. They don't know how to handle it. How would you suggest the listener right now, if they they walked away?
I have those too.
Of course.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, we're still small enough. It's not like I got this insulated bubble, right?
Totally.
I still, so all of our stylists, I don't have any store managers because I don't hire anyone who has to be managed. So from an organizational strategic perspective, I've kind of solved it right away that if you need to be managed, and I tell people this, if you need to be managed and told when to get to work and when to go home and this is the wrong company for you, right? Because I won't do it. I'll just fire you. You're done. You're going to be done very fast. Right. And so with that, I do give them this, I expect, and we all react, even the 20-year-olds. I I set the frame, I frame it, I set the expectations, and then I trust they're going to do that. And when they don't do it, when there is a miss, I pause and I invest in them. I invest time in them, and I pause and I sit down and I have coffee with them, and I go, you are better than this. This is what I know about you. Da, 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 da. This is the reality. And the minute they start spinning it, I go, don't bullshit a bullshitter. I am the queen of spin. You cannot spin to me. Do not tell me you had this and this. I see through all of it. Right. Yeah. So either we're going to have a real conversation right now, or I'm done investing. And every single time they either coach them up or out. They either go, screw you, and walk out the door. Great. I'm done. That was easy. I'm
no more.
Not worth investing in. Or leap, huge leaps. Now, do they go backwards? Sure. We all do. That's a human journey. Right. Yeah. But it really is, they leave. And I have these people on my team, and they're like, how do you have these phenomenal, independent, driven, just brilliant team members who are in their 20s? And I'm like, because I expect things of them, but I also support and coach them, and I believe in them. I really do. It goes back to that heart and kindness. I actually really believe in them. And I think, and I pause and I cement when that 20-year-old who maybe didn't have the maturity to handle a client situation well, has the insight on how to post something, or maybe a line we need to be carrying. And I cement that. I go, you are valuable, and you just brought this to the team. And they did, for real. Right. Now, what I get to bring to them is some coaching on maybe how to handle and finesse, and how to have a little more maturity. Right. Yep. But, and I don't pull people up the hill, by the way. Entrepreneurs who are having those rock stars and you're pulling them up the hill and you want it more than they do, stop. Right. Yeah. Hold them accountable, call them on their mistakes, and see what they do.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think they could just hit pause. We could stop probably the whole thing right now, and they'd just be, writing notes for days. But in all seriousness, if you're listening right now, hit the pause button, go back. Oh, probably just to the beginning. But the last 3 minutes have been incredible. I want to transition to the speed round. First question is this for you, Karmen. If we take your entire business conglomerate, we dwindle it all the way down into only one thing that you could track, what would you choose to track forever and ever?
Right now, I answered it as right now. I would check sell-through. So it's very logistical. It's very quantitative. It's literally sell-through on a product in our store, et cetera, because we do have 4 physical locations, and that has the most liability, and I would track that.
Okay, great. And what book would you recommend for a 6-figure business owner just getting started?
Oh, Good to Great. It's the oldest, right? Jim Collins, and I think a lot of new entrepreneurs that have missed it, right? It is still applicable. So go back to Good to Great. Yes.
That's okay.
I'm done talking. It's our speed round.
No, it's such a, exactly. It's okay. It is one of the classics, and it does get overlooked, I think, a bunch. But I use phraseology from that book almost every single week. Right seat, right bus, you name it. It is very applicable to building a business in today's environment. So
yes.
What do you think about intentionally networking or masterminding with other entrepreneurs?
I think it's phenomenal. I mean, I believe in collaboration. I do not think I'm the smartest person in the room, and I love the power of insight and lessons and everything like that. I do a lot of masterminding right now, thankfully, with my team, just because it has grown to that level and that caliber. Totally. But absolutely, it is every chance I get. It's so funny when I go to New York market or Paris market, I will grab, this phenomenal owner from another store out in Charlotte, or, what I mean, or LA. And I'm like, wait, and my best conversations are right there, just, and I dive right in, or with a designer. So I believe in masterminding. It's huge.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Operational question. If you only had 1 hour each week, this is not on your list, by the way, this is a secret question. If you only had 1 hour each week to operate your business, what would you do in that 1 hour to successfully do what you do now?
Oh, that's easy. I'd call clients. I'd call clients. It's my favorite thing that I do. So when either, a new client walks in and does a larger than average sale, or maybe someone who's been shopping has a, 4 times the normal sale, I pick up the phone and I call them and I say, we have 4 locations now, right? So obviously I'm not in the stores and a million other things going on. So I pick up the phone and I just literally call them and I go, hey, this is Karmen, I own A-Line. Thank you for shopping local. And just thank you. I just want you to have my name, my phone number, but I also just really want to tell you how important it is, right? For me as a business owner to have your support and you to shop local, right? And it is by far, it's that also 80-20 rule, right? In 1 hour, how many clients could I call? A lot. Right. Because it's a short conversation. It's not a strategy. It's not a long session. It's a quick, connect. And those connections, I cannot tell you years later, I mean, and there's some people, I don't even know who they are. There's some wife of this player, right? We're talking the biggest players in the world, or I didn't even know I called someone who is a lead singer. Her husband is a lead singer of one of the biggest bands in America. Cause I don't know who these women are. I just oh, you shopped. I want to thank you. Right. And later they're like, that phone call is what differentiated you.
Yeah.
So 100%. I love calling, and I call all of our clients who are also angry. The first thing I said, if you have a client issue, your first call when you hang up or you walk away from that client, your first call better be me or your ass is fired, right? Yeah. I better know about it, and I don't want to hear about it later because I can fix it, or I want at least an at bat that I can fix it. So I call any client who's also had a bad experience personally. And I connect to them.
Yeah, I think that the little drop, the connection that you described here is what transcends time. Or we've got this phrase inside of Gathering the Kings. Actually, Brianna on my team, who you got to meet, came up with it. It's this transcending the transaction, and that moment.
So that one's for me now. You can have my shit.
I'll get exactly
the transaction.
Yeah, because that's exactly what you're talking about. You're making it about the human, about the relationship, not about necessarily just that one individual transaction. And it matters. Long term, years later, it matters. Last question for you, Karmen. Are you ready?
Okay. Yep.
If you lost it all, what would you do?
Oh, I would move to Costa Rica. I almost did in COVID. I'm not kidding. So when you're signing leases, right, on 46, like the one behind me, 4,600 square feet, I have 15,000 square feet of A-class retail space that I am personally guaranteeing. Yep. Okay. And that's no problem when you think, okay, one store could fail, right? But when all 4 get closed simultaneously with COVID, before PPP came out, you don't know what's happening. And no one's waiving rent. Right. And it's unforeseen. And I have all this inventory. There was a very real moment, Chaz, where I went, I'm going to have to start over. I'm going to have to declare bankruptcy.
Yep.
And first I had a big panic. Then I had a really, really big cry. And then I started dreaming and I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? And it was a real question. It wasn't a like this philosophical or hypothetical. It was a very real question that I was, and I went, I'm taking my daughter, we're moving to Costa Rica, and I'm going to open a surf school, and it's going to be phenomenal.
I love it. I love it. That moment that you described of almost utter failure due to COVID, I remember exactly where I was when I had that exact same feeling. Obviously being in retail, some of my businesses are in retail as well. I remember those first 3 weeks after the lockdown, and it was like, okay, well, we might have to go a different direction here, and exploring all different types of options. And so I guess I correlate that, not only just to your story, obviously it's the same moment in time, but as entrepreneurs, we have these ups and downs, we have these moments. But what I didn't hear you say is I cried and then I wanted to quit. Oh, no. It was, I cried, I got it out. Yep. And then what's next?
Yeah. Yeah, life is still, and I think that's where losing my mom at 17 from 2 brain tumors, that, one night we're playing their Uno and healthy as can be. And the next morning I found her in a grand mal seizure, and then she's given 3 months to live. I think there's something very, environmental that was taught to me at a very young age of just, as long as I have my health,
Yeah.
the sky's the limit. Right. And so, COVID, thankfully I was healthy, right? My business was not, but I was healthy and I still had all my great ideas and now I had all this experience and I was just going to do it better. So, there was no victimhood. There was no blaming. There was no poor me. There was real, like you said, real fear, real crying, real mourning. Those are healthy, feelings. And then there was, birth. Okay, now I have a clean slate and let's birth something else. Yeah. And see
that moment, that confidence that you now have, that even in the pressing of the heart of the moment,
yes,
knowing what you would do now. And this is what I mean, I don't know if I've actually ever said this on a show. We're 175 shows in. The reason for this question is to give confidence to the entrepreneur today, just like you have right now, to where you're like, I can't lose. Of course, the individual storefront there, something might tactically happen wrong, but beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can't lose.
Yes. Yes. And I would say reclaim your confidence. To those entrepreneurs listening, reclaim that confidence you had as a kid. Okay. There is a beauty and innocence of our soul when we are little and we burst in a room and we don't think, is the idea smart enough? Is my shirt, do I have the right outfit on, whatever? We just burst in and we say it, right? Yeah. And reclaim that and know that you were born with that. You didn't go to school for that. That's just who you are. It's your net worth, right? It's just intrinsic. You are beautiful and divine. And so, like you said, hold on to that, have that confidence and let it stem from that nothing can take it away, because also you didn't do anything to do it. You were just born with it. That's who you are.
That's right. Karmen, you've been absolutely incredible. How can the listener find your boutiques? How can they, if they're a woman and they want to hang off of a side of a cliff, and they want to just connect with you, how can they find your book? All of it.
Yes, all of it. You can just literally go to aline-online.com and you'll find everything. And then also personally me, everything's under just my name, from LinkedIn to Instagram to Facebook and everything else. Just literally spell my name, Karmen with a K. My mom's name is Karen, and if you put an M in it, it becomes Karmen. Okay. And then Berentsen, as it sounds, Berentsen. So those two, they can connect with me, and I would love to hear from anyone. Message me, DM me, all the above, because it's wonderful to know that you more than you and I, Chaz, got to hear this episode. And if it did bless someone, if it did inspire someone, I would love to know that. So let me know.
That's incredible. Wow. Thank you for being here. Blessings on your store, your family, your daughter, maybe your move at some point to Costa Rica. You never know. Thank you for being here, Karmen.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Gathering the Kings. We hope you got a ton of value today and learned a thing or two about taking your business to 7 figures and beyond. If you desire more and want a community around you to help you get there, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. That's gatheringthekings.com. And I want you to apply for our next Becoming a King 90-day intensive. We are extremely exclusive by nature as a group. What that means is that we're really wanting only the entrepreneurs who take their business and targets super serious to apply. So if that's you think you got what it takes to level up your business, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com and apply. And we will see you on the other side.